My name is Jennifer Brownhill, and I was diagnosed with autism just short of 2 years ago. I also was diagnosed with ADHD. I'm supported here today by my amazing husband of 19 years who was also diagnosed with autism, Asperger's, and ADHD. He also has bipolar disorder and Tourette syndrome. And together we have two amazing, gorgeous boys. Our eldest, who is 10, he also has autism and Tourette syndrome, who we call the enforcer because he loves his roles and is quite happy to tell everybody when they're wrong about anything. And we have a 6-year-old boy as well who also has autism and is in the midst of being assessed for ADHD and Tourette syndrome. And we normally refer to as the bear because when he's not happy, everybody knows about it. But he is really cute and cuddly and works for us. Also, about a year ago, we decided to start home educating our children because they weren't coping in mainstream school environments. And on top of that, we also have a business that we run from home. So we have a lot of things going on in our household, a lot of things to deal with. But they certainly make for very interesting days that are never like one another. For me, when I got my diagnosis, it was a great feeling because I think for the first time I finally felt like everything fit into place. Everything that I thought was actually going on wasn't actually going on, if that makes any sense. I spent most of my life trying to fit in with different groups of people, trying to watch what people did. The girls in my school, I would watch how they behaved, watched what they did and mimicked them, did the same things because it was easier to do that than to be myself, I suppose. Whilst trying to do that communication with them, I think I found it hard to still express myself, although I am quite loud. The volume is kind of intermittent. Sometimes I'm really loud and sometimes I'm really quiet. I found that when I was trying to communicate my feelings to other people, they didn't quite always understand what I wanted to say. I couldn't get my points across, or I would give so much detail, people just stopped listening. As a child, I think when I tried to communicate, it was a little bit different. I was very demanding. I wanted everything now. I had no patience. If you weren't moving within the second I said, I would get angry. I found that I used to run around the house, destroying things, slamming doors, breaking things, because looking back, I realized I couldn't express what I wanted to say, and people weren't understanding what I wanted to do, what I wanted to communicate, and how I felt. And so it was easier for me to use the only tool I had, which was be angry, because somebody would react to that. Something would change and things would be different. I found that throughout my life, I struggled with reading people's body language, understanding whether somebody was bored listening to me, because I can talk, I can tell you, I can talk till the cows come home and I don't even need you to respond. And I'll keep going and I'll keep talking. And I found that it was luckily for my husband who would tell me, you know, Jen, you need to stop talking, let them get a word in, let them say something. But I just thought everybody was kind of like that. I thought everybody had something to say, but my stuff was more important because those thoughts that were in my head were going to be there for a few seconds, and if I didn't get them out, nobody was going to know what the genius was going on in my head. So I would just say it instantly. Very impulsive. As it went on, I found that trying to do certain things, trying to do several things at once was a real struggle for me. In school, having to listen to the teachers, listen to what they say, and take notes was a very big struggle for me. I either had to listen or I could write notes. I could not do both. And if I tried to do both, I found that my notes were illegible and I couldn't remember anything that my teacher had taught me. All the while trying to take in all the smells that were coming in, people's body odor, people's cologne, people's clothing, listening to the rustling of the papers, people writing things down. All of those things were going on, conversations in the background, everything constantly distracting me. And that really did affect my learning because it was just too much every day, 8 hours a day, then coming home and being expected to do homework, because that wasn't going to happen. Not after all day long of putting in all that energy to try to focus, to try to complete something. And I struggled. But luckily for me, I was always quite intelligent. And I did well in tests. I excelled at everything that I did. I did college level courses in high school to try to get beyond my level, because I came from a poor background, and I knew that in America the only way that I was going to get anywhere was to get a scholarship of some kind by using my intelligence, the one thing that I knew I had with me to get me someplace. Unfortunately, when I went to college, I went on the internet for the first time in 1996. That was interesting. I had no idea you could talk to people all over the world all of a sudden. And I met my husband to be on the internet. And for me, that was the first time that I had an actual relationship with somebody that I could express how I felt, because I could write it down, I could tailor make it, I could express what I wanted to, erase something that maybe I thought, actually, that's not a good thing to reveal right now, or maybe I shouldn't just say that just yet. And with that relationship, I moved over to the UK, and within a couple months we got married. And that was interesting, because y'all people, I had a lot to take from you guys, to learn, to understand the money, to understand where I was in the country. And being American, I thought Scotland was connected to Sweden, to be honest. I had no idea that it was actually connected in any way. I didn't check those things out, probably impulse. But, you know, I tried to gather what I could from the people around me and learn your culture, learn how you guys interact, how you guys hold things in, how you don't always express yourself, which kind of actually fit quite well with me, because you guys hold things in more than maybe Americans have a tendency to do. As I went on, we eventually decided, well, my husband decided, because he's really clever, annoyingly so, and he wanted to start a business. So I said, okay, you've got 2 years, you want to start a business, let's start a business. And he did it. His cleverness and my ability to organize, I suppose, worked well for us. We started one of the first companies in the UK that started doing ringtones. And we went within 4 years from a company that was just the two of us and a friend who also helped start it. No money, going from nothing to having multinational offices, turning over millions of pounds within 4 years, having an office in the UK with 60 employees. And that was a great thing, because it made us feel like we could be successful. We didn't need to rely on anyone else, that we had the skills ourselves to be successful. Problem was, all the other issues kind of then came more into play. Being in an office with a lot of people, a lot of noise, all those relationships, all those intertwining political office stuff was not really something that catered for either myself or my husband. So I started working from home because it was easier and more relaxing. But then eventually came the children. And at the time, I think we were set, we were ready, we wanted to have children and all that encompassed. But having one child, you don't have anything to compare it to. You don't know if this is right, if this is wrong. And I was never really great at eye contact, so I didn't really notice that there was anything awry, anything wrong with my son, supposedly wrong. It wasn't until my second son came along, where he was about 18 months, and I started to notice his hitting his head a lot. His not listening, not understanding, not taking things in, the tantrums, the things that I did as a child. Things that I thought he should be able to understand, like my eldest son did. He didn't understand. He couldn't take it in. Even simple things like trying to use a potty became a very big struggle. And me being the mother that I am, I tried everything. I tried every book. I tried every internet source. I tried parents. I tried everything. And eventually, at 5.5, he did learn to use the toilet. But it was through a lot of hard slog, a lot of hard opening my eyes to other options. But once we started going down the process with my son, my youngest, is when I started to say, you know what, he does a lot of things that I do. Am I rubbing off on him, or is there something else underneath this? And that's when we went along the lines to try to find a diagnosis for our son. And as I began to read, I started thinking, I do that, and I do that, and whoa, I do that, and oh, that's not normal. It's not normal for everyone to count in their heads all the time. It's not normal that I count the shadows between the trees as I'm driving down the road. It's not a normal thing that I have to concentrate so much on having a conversation, and that I'm so tired after speaking to people. I'm so exhausted with everything that's going on around me. And so I started to do more reading, and that's when I went to go seek a diagnosis, because I felt that this seemed to fit all of those things that I questioned throughout my whole life. And for me, as I said in the beginning, it was a positive step for me to finally understand my background and look back and see where I made choices and how I could make new, different, better choices to have a better future for myself, to have a future that I could shape and make better for my children, that I could use my own knowledge of my own issues to tailor-make the support that my children would have. And that's why I came today, because I want to help, excuse me, my mouth has gone all dry. I want to help shape the system that my children are going to grow up in, that my children are currently a part of. And right now, both of my children are at levels where they're in between. They're not so what people consider low functioning, that they can go to a special school and get that additional support, but they're not able to function in a mainstream standard environment. So that's what we supply to them at home. And in this last year, they've gone from strength to strength, and it's happened because we've been able to adjust. And is it hard? Absolutely, so hard sometimes, very difficult. But other times there's just so much joy and so much emotion involved that I just love it. I couldn't imagine our lives being any other way, changing in any way. I just want my children to be able to grow up and feel like they can be proud of who they are and how they are, and know that, yes, you're different, but everybody is different. Everybody has something. Everybody has a history. Everybody has a background. Everybody has something that makes them a little bit different, and different doesn't have to be wrong. It's just different. So for me, that's why I'm here today. And I hope that by speaking about this and being open and communicative, that other people will be able to see that not everybody has to be the same. So thank you very much for listening to me, and if you guys have any questions, I'm quite happy to answer them. So that's it. Thank you.